Okay, so I'm not always working on a Mercedes. I've also got this KTM. It's a 2017 500 exc-f. That's a big boy. I've added a Kickstarter because I don't really trust these EFI bikes that much. I've added these little luggage rack things I made myself. I kind of copied the giant loop setup, except the giant loop setup, they're kind of open on the end for kind of like quick attach, but I like the securement, of having them enclosed. You have to kind of thread your nylon straps through and then cinch them up like you would on a backpack or whatever, but that keeps your backpack, you just take your shoulder straps apart, thread them through that, and then you've got your backpack attached on there. I've never really seen anybody else do that, but it seems to work for me. I built this dune flag mount because we do have sand dunes around here. It goes in, it just bolts on where the muffler bolts on, nothing fancy. But that also gives me a little more support, keeps my tail from flexing when I have it loaded up with luggage. Seems to work all right. I made this sheepskin seat cover. I sewed on, I hemmed the edges and then I sewed on a nylon buckle on that end, and then it's got just an elastic strap that slips over the front here. This is just carpet padding. It's not the best, but it works for longer rides. It looks like shit, but it works. This is a universal tail light I got off Amazon. You can see where I've got it riveted on, and I just painted the rivets. It seems to fit pretty good. It was like $12, but it has integrated turn signals, brake, license plate light, all that. And you just it just dremeled out the factory KTM housing, and it just kind of countersinks in there. That looks pretty good. But basically the project I'm working on now is I seen this company, Raise Motorsports, and then another one called C3. They make heated handlebars that use engine coolant. So I got to looking at it. They don't have any fancy dividers or cooling passages or anything like that. They literally just have tapped bars, and then they thread it into the engine coolant. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm doing 1/8" pipe tap. And then I've got all the fittings for just a union here. This will be pre-thermostat, so it'll heat up the bars before it opens into the radiator. So as soon as your engine warms up to temperature, your bars will be up to temperature. Maybe a shut-off valve just in case you tear a hose on the trail or something. And then on the other side, same thing. There's just one lower hose. Just gonna do just a barbed union with a T, and then an 1/8" to probably 4 JIC. Number 4 JIC hose, number 4 to 1/8" fitting up here. Keep both the hoses kind of secured to all the other lines. But the one thing where I'm straying from all the other setups is the C3 Motorsports. It seemed like they just used basically like an air fitting, which will work for fluids, but if you push it and pull it, it'll just unpop and you'd lose all your coolant. It doesn't seem like the best setup to me. Cheaper, easier to replace than hydraulic line. But the pressed hydraulic fittings you can't really do on the trail. So what I've got is 10,000 PSI. It's nylon reinforced, but it's not metal, so it won't really kink like hydraulic hose, and it's not as expensive. And this length right here will probably do both the hoses I need. But the thing is they make those 2-piece collars. It's similar to like the braided line, but it left-hand thread one, it'll thread onto the line, and then the outer one threads into that left-hand collar. And then you've got reusable fitting. And what you would do is you would just have a length of this hose, just keep it in your backpack, your tail bag, fender bag, whatever. And heaven forbid, if you did yank the thing off, you've got shut-off valves, just shut off your shutoff valves. And then this stuff doesn't take any specialty tools either. You just cut it with a knife to a new length. You cut it with a knife. You see that's a pretty crappy cut. That's why it wasn't finished yet. And then you just put that fitting onto your new piece of line. You would have a left-hand fitting. You thread on, and then you have your inner fitting. This is actually a hydraulic crimp one, but I figure for the first time around I'll just use these. If I ever do break it, I could just carry the two-piece fittings and the hose, make a new one if I need to. No, I think it'll be a pretty cool setup. It's a lot smaller than hydraulic line. It's about the same size as the air line that the C3 company uses. I'll probably put a 45 off of here, and then that'll just thread down. Go to that T. We've got all the fittings here. If you can't picture it in your head, this is what's gonna happen. Here's a number 4 to 1/8 inch. Here's a small stainless shutoff, just 1/8 inch. And then it's gonna have a barbed fitting. I've flattened one side. I'm gonna drill and tap that 1/8 inch, same as the bars. And then that'll take one of these fittings. Radiator hose in, clamped. Radiator hose, clamped. And then your bar heat line teed off of that. And it ought to work. Excuse all the mess here. I got lots of projects going on. I'll keep you updated when it's finished. And I think it'll be a pretty slick setup.